in listen-only mode.
Good morning and welcome to the Virginia SBDC's second Google to Great webinar. This webinar series is designed to give you an overview of how to actually use the powerful tools that Google has created and some practical tips from a small business perspective. Each webinar focuses on one Google product. If you missed our first session on Google Sites, you can find a recorded version of the webinar on the Virginia SBDC website under Online Training. All of our Google to Great webinars will be presented by Sidney-Smith, a self-proclaimed Google-ologist and president of W3 Consulting, a digital business strategy firm that provides training on how to use various web-based technologies for small businesses. If you have any questions during the presentation, please type those questions into the chat window and Ray will do his best to answer them. Without further ado, here is Ray Sidney-Smith.
Thank you, Tracy, and thank you to the Virginia SBDC Network for having me present the Google to Great series. Today's webinar is going to be using Google to be found. Part 2, we'll be talking about Google Analytics. And Google Analytics itself is a free service. There is a fee service. If you want the fee service, it costs $150,000 that you could pay to Google. But the free service is what we'll be talking about today. And for the most part, it will cover all of your needs in terms of detailed statistics about the visitors to your small business website. So a couple of things about the morning as we move along. First, if you have any questions, feel free to go ahead and send those if you're on Twitter, go ahead and send those at W3 Consulting and hashtag that Google to Great, and I'll be happy to go ahead and answer those questions subsequent to today. Of course, as Tracy said, go ahead and send those messages through the webinar panel, and I'll be happy to answer questions as we move along. So Google Analytics, or GA as it's sometimes called, goes ahead and tracks visitors to your site. Now, I'm going to talk about this morning a little bit about why, of course, you would want to go ahead and do that, but Google Analytics does three major types of tracking. First is it tracks visitors to your site, especially as it relates to e-commerce. And that means both from the Google AdWords perspective as well as from a website publisher's perspective. If you have a website where you are making income from people visiting your website, you can go ahead and track the traffic from those people coming to your website and actually making you money from visiting your website. So you can track visitors to your site. The other thing that Google Analytics does, or GA does, is that it allows you to track social media. This is a fairly new aspect of the system, just sort of announced in the last couple of days. But what it really is important to understand is that social media return on investment can be understood on some level, and Google Analytics allows you to be able to start tracking that social media data and figuring out how people are interacting on your own website. And then the other third major area that Google Analytics really helps is tracking mobile phones and devices visiting your site. So what we know is that many, many more people than before are visiting small business websites via their smartphones, their feature phones with web browsers, and now with new mobile devices, which may be tablets that have the Google Android platform on them, Apple's iPad, or the new iPad with multiple versions of that, as well as smaller devices like the Apple iPod Touch and other types of small mobile devices that allow people to browse the web whether they're at home or on the road. So it's really important as a small business owner to really understand those three parts of your world, how people are visiting your site, how they're purchasing and getting to purchases on your website, how they're going ahead and visiting your site in terms of social media, and then finally talking about mobile visiting traffic and how to optimize your website through the analytics data, understanding the analytics data to go ahead and cater to people who might be on mobile. So what we're going to do today is just briefly go over these 3 points: why you need website traffic data analysis, setting up and using tracking codes and goals within the Google Analytics system, and then the basics of analyzing the reports, what actually happens within the reports themselves. So in order to do that, I'm actually going to take you out to Google, because that's where everything pretty much starts these days. But I'm just going to go to google.com. And if we go to google.com, I'm going to type in a search term. I'm going to type in small business. And when I type in small business, I do a search. And many websites come up. We can ignore right now I'm circling it right now, but there's a sort of a beige or orangey type square here, rectangle, and that's advertising. But right below that is where the natural language search results show up. So the search engine results page, what we call SERPs, search engine results pages show up, and these results display. There's about 10 here on this page. There's exactly 10 on this page that Google will display for me. And what we did in the last webinar was we showed you how to create a website or pages on the web and to allow them to be displayed. Here goes these search results, and what we're trying to figure out as a small business owner is the intent of the person who would want to find my business. So looking at who clicks on what here is really important. But we can't get into Google's brain, so to speak, and figure that out. So the way in which we do it is through our own analysis of website traffic. Because, of course, when someone visits our website, you presume that they have some interest in your business, your products and services. So going and doing the search for your own business is really quite important. If you type in your small business name, the keywords associated with your small business product or service, that is that most people are not going to type in ABC company into Google search engine. They're going to type in what they need. So if I need a dentist in Roanoke, Virginia, I'm going to type in dentist, Roanoke, Virginia. And most likely, there are going to be dentists that show up in the search listings. And it's really important to find out whether or not people click on those links when they are interested in your services based on the searches that are being done. So let's go on into Google Analytics and set things up. Does anyone have questions as it relates to why you would need Google Analytics, or that is why you would need website traffic data analysis? I wanted to go briefly over that, but if anyone has any questions about why you would even want web analytics, please feel free to pipe up and I'll be happy to answer those questions. So what you're looking at on screen right now is actually the Google Analytics initial page. So when you go to google.com/analytics, you come to this page. The home page shows you that this is enterprise class web analytics. I like to call it enterprise class web analytics for small business because Google in and of itself, though the system has been really created for marketers, there's a lot here that gives a powerful tool to small business in a free packaging. So it's really, really cool. The statistic is that about 55% of the top 10,000 websites on the internet use Google, the Google Analytics product, and I believe it's something just shy of 50% of the top 1 million websites on the web use Google Analytics as their primary analytics tool. So very, very powerful tool. And Google Analytics here, as the display page is panning through, what it's really saying is that it allows you to be able to look at things in different ways, different types of web traffic to your website, just looking at it in different views, so that you can go ahead and make a decision or make decisions based on the traffic that's coming to your website. So we're going to do the first thing, which is going ahead and setting up the account. So I'm going to sign into this account, and I'm going to make this very explicit notice that the account that I'm using is not my public account, so do not email me at the account that's listed on the screen. Please email me at the email address on the final slide that you'll see, but don't email me there because I won't get the messages. I know that there was a problem before with that. So I'm going to go ahead and click on Sign In here. And if you initially log in, it's going to ask you to go ahead and create an account name and then accept the terms of service and log into the system. So once you've done that, the next time you come in, it's going to show you and display for you a series of web pages that you can go ahead and select from. And I'm going to go ahead and select a particular page. So here this page displays, and as you can see, you have the orange bar that rides across the top of the screen that flows right here. You have Home, Standard Reporting, and Custom Reporting. We'll only be going over the standard reporting today, and you can go ahead and play with the custom reporting at a later time. But I just want you to understand the basics of the reporting once we get to that point. Either way, if I wanted to create a new website to track, I would go ahead to my admin section. And so that just means going over here and clicking on admin. I would go ahead to the left-hand side panel here and see how it says create, edit, and or delete a profile. I'm going to go ahead in that drop-down menu. So see where I am. I'm right below the Google Analytics logo. I'm going to drop down to create, edit, delete profile. And then it says here to create a new profile, click the add a new profile button, and we're going to go ahead and do that. Where's the button for that? In my account list. See, even us technologists have problems. So it showed me. Oh, here we go. Let's just create a whole new account. All right. So under the account administration, I went to admin, and it showed me my current account profile. I just clicked on create new account, and you can see here I have my current list of websites that I'm an administrator for. I'm just creating a new account, and this is what you would do at the startup screen of the Google Analytics page. So here we are. I go ahead and I create the account name, and I'm going to call this one W3 Consulting, and I'm going to go ahead and decide on a website address, and in this case I'm just going to type in a domain, let's say W3, which is our website. I'm going to choose the right time zone for myself. I'm going to allow it to go ahead and track some other information with Google so that they can analyze. I'm going to accept the terms of service, and then I'm going to go ahead and create an account. Now, this is where most people get hung up on some of the coding and the technical components of being able to set up an analytics tool. So if you are confused by this, by all means get help. Find someone who is comfortable with HTML and web coding to sort of help you through this process. But don't get discouraged by the sort of complicated look of the programming code. You are literally copying and pasting it into the right place on your website, okay? So in order to be able to use Google Analytics, you have to have what's called tracking codes on your website. Some websites dynamically track that code. So I'll show you that. Excuse me, I will show you that when we go to the Google Sites page that we created in the last webinar, and I'll show how that's dynamically created just by entering in one code. However, if you have a static website, meaning that each of your website pages doesn't interact with a database program, that is, there's HTML code in a file called .html or .html, and then uploaded to your website. So this is what we call a static website. Each page is independent on your website. You go ahead and have to put this tracking code directly into the page. I'm going to show you how this happens. So if we go to just any old web page, let's go to the Meetup page for which I was. No, let's just go to meetup.com. So meetup.com is this really cool website where people go ahead and group together and meet in real life about their specific interests. So if they have an interest, they go ahead and do that. So here I'm going to go ahead and take a look behind the scenes. So I'm in Firefox right now, Mozilla Firefox, and if I go into the Tools section, it has a drop-down menu that says Web Developer. Okay, and so for today's purposes, we're all web developers. So I'm going to go on into the Web Developer, and I'm going to go to something called Page Source. If you're in Internet Explorer, you're going to go ahead and, depending upon the version, there's so many versions of the various browsers, but you're basically going to look for View Source, and or you're going to go ahead and look for the page source in that particular page. If you're using Google Chrome, you're going to go ahead and you're going to look for the wrench, the little hand wrench looking icon. You're going to drop down to Tools, and there's going to be a tool in there that allows you to be able to view the page source as well. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and click on the page source, and what we're looking at right now is the web HTML behind the scenes of that website. So what your browser does is it reads this code and displays this page based on the code that you were just looking at. And what all that Google wants us to do in terms of the tracking code is to go into the page, into this little section of the website. Now again, you have to do this back on your web server. So if you're not comfortable with this, go ahead and have your website programmer or developer do this. But if you are comfortable editing your web pages natively, you can go ahead and do that. So here in the code, we're basically going to go ahead and scroll through. Notice, we're ignoring all the rest of the code, and we're basically going to drop that code right into the website where we need it to. Okay. So going back to Google Analytics, we're gonna go back to the page, and you can see that what it does is it tells us this is the site that we are trying to set up. This is the tracking status. This is the tracking code. The tracking code is not yet installed, and once it does get installed, it will say that we're tracking this website. So under the standard website tracking, we go ahead and we tell Google that we are using a single domain. We have one domain with multiple subdomains. That means if you have www.w3cinc.com, if you have email.w3cinc.com and other types of subdomains, if you have a web store and you call it shop.w3cinc.com, you can have multiple subdomains so that it knows to track the subdomains, or whether or not you have multiple top-level domains. A top-level domain, what we call TLDs. TLDs are basically the .com, .biz, .net, .co.uk, all of the last dot and character in your website domain name. Okay, so top-level domains are those as well. So if you happen to have yoursmallbusiness.com, yoursmallbusiness.biz, yoursmallbusiness.net, and they all go to the same pages, you can go ahead and tell Google to basically mush all of those domains together so that they can track them together, because it makes sense, right? So once you've told Google to go ahead and track those, we go into the script down here, and we just go ahead and highlight the entire script, okay? And we're going to copy it. And notice the little gray instructions here, which are very important. It says, copy the following code, then paste it onto every page you want to track immediately before the closing head tag. So the closing head tag is basically the opening section of your website that has the title of your web page. It has all the metadata and meta descriptions, the keywords associated with that page. It tells all of the coding as it relates to the CSS and the framework for the website. So right in that beginning place, you're going to go ahead and place that head tag. If you have trouble doing that, go ahead and click on the little question mark here. And the question mark will open up the Google support window, and it will show you very, very explicitly how to go ahead and install the tracking code for it. So it shows you, in the support instructions how to go ahead and set up the tracking code here. So you can see that it has all of the information, for you to be able to do that, and it'll walk you through the process. So I don't want to belabor the subject because most people will, have systems today that allow you to be able to go ahead and do this through the website program itself. But if you do have a page that's static on the website, you can go ahead and implement this directly into the code. Okay, and by all means, if after the webinar, if you hit trouble trying to use this tracking code, go ahead and send a message to me, and I can help you go ahead and lead you to at least a resource where you can watch that being done. So the other side to this is going to the Google sites that we created, the Google Sites site that we created in the last webinar, and going ahead and implementing that in that system. So I'm going to go ahead to google.com/sites. It's going to take me to the Google sites that I currently have.
Ray, as that's loading, we do have a question. Can you
Sure,
insert Google Analytics into a WordPress website?
Yes, you need a plugin in order to be able to do that in a WordPress site. And so what I would do is I would download. You can install directly from within WordPress if you have the latest version of WordPress. You can go ahead and install that directly from it. So what I would do is go into WordPress, go into the plugin section, and type in one of a couple of things. You could type in Google Analytics, and Google Analytics will be the search term for the plugins that are available. It will look up, and it will probably find a couple of them. They're all pretty good. So the one that's called Google G Analyticator, there's a G Analyticator, there's one called Google Analytics. There are a couple out there that are pretty much the top tier ones. If they're from a trusted author and they have a lot of good reviews, try it out and it pretty much will do the job. I think I use G Analyticator or Google Analyticator generally. I mean, depending upon the WordPress installation that I'm working on, but for the most part, the Analyticator works pretty well. Okay, so here I'm at the Google Sites page where we created the last website, and I've renamed it from whatever it was, Small Business Project Management Website. I've named it to Small Business Website. So I'm going to go ahead and click on my Small Business Website. And again, all we're doing here is just installing the tracking code within Google Analytics so that we can go ahead and track it. So I'm going to go to the drop-down menu for More. It's going to take me over to Manage Site. This little drop-down here brings me to Manage Site. I'm going to go to Manage Site. Now, under Manage Site, I'm going to scroll down under the General. It takes me right to the General Preferences of the Manage Site section. And it says right here under Statistics for me to enable Google Analytics. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to my Analytics page, and I'm going to note that Google Analytics has given me the ability to do a couple of things. One, it says, hey, would you like to email these instructions to someone? And so, for instance, if you have, your 15-year-old son or daughter who happens to be really good at web stuff, they would probably be able to go ahead and take these instructions and install the code for you within your website for you with the right information. You can send it along to your website developer or programmer who can go ahead and help you do that as well, which would be my recommendation. And then you can go ahead on with your day. And so then the tracking code will be installed. For Google Sites, though, we're going to go over to the Advanced section. And under the Advanced section, it's going to basically give me some additional options. So again, if you have various AdWords and other types of information, you want to go ahead and let the system know so that you can get that done. And then, I'm sort of getting ahead of myself. So it doesn't matter. So we're just going to stay on standard. Either way, we're at the Google Sites installation. We're at that point. We're going to take this tracking ID right at the top here for creating the new site. You see there's a UA number, UA, and then this string of digits. UA stands for Urchin Analytics. Urchin Analytics was Urchin software as in the sea urchin, was the software that was originally purchased by Google to create GA. And so UA plus those digits is the tracking ID used across your web properties, this unique ID across all of your web properties in order to track and bring the statistics back to Google Analytics. So we're going to copy this UA number. We're going to go right over to Google Sites. It tells me Analytics Web Property ID, example, see that UA and then 1234512. Here I'm just going to go ahead and paste in my UA code. Okay? Go ahead and click the Save button at the top of Google Sites. It says my changes have been saved, and voila, done. In a couple of hours, I'll be able to come back to Google Analytics and start seeing the data being collected about the site. It can take upwards of 24 hours for the site to start tracking data. So don't get upset if you don't see that within a couple of hours. Come back in about, 24 hours time, and you can go ahead and get that data for you. Okay? So we've gone ahead and touched base on why you need website traffic data analysis. You want to figure out the intent of your visitors, why people are coming to your website. so you can make it more relevant to them so that you want them to come back. And then we then installed Google Analytics onto your website, which means that now that it's installed both manually on your website, if you have a static web page, or whether or not you have a Google Sites page or another type of dynamic website, a content management system that basically allows the site to put the code into every page automatically, you are now tracking that data on your site, okay? So now I'm going to take you into Google Analytics and just go over briefly the reporting features of the site so that you're able to understand what some of this data actually means. So I'm going to take you into one of the,
We have a question, and I think it's just on a general website. Do you have to add the code to your website? Can you go over again where that code is added?
Yeah, sure. So if we go for every website, it's going to be sort of different in the sense that I'm showing you where it shows up in the code, but you might have a particular way in which you edit your website. So if you go ahead and edit your website manually through a program like Microsoft FrontPage or Macromedia, the Adobe product Dreamweaver, or some other type of web editor, you're basically going to have to go into the view that allows you to see the HTML, okay? When you see the HTML, I'm showing you that what you're going to do is that you're going to place that code, well, not in that doesn't look good. Let's go to, I just know that this website's code looks good. Meetup website. Let's see. So back under the page source, you see here how the website starts out with this code called head. So it's an open, it's a less than sign, HEAD, close, or greater than sign. We're going to scroll down until we find the one that has a / after the less than sign. The / after the less than sign in HTML coding, in the web coding world, basically means that's the close of the head tag. Okay, so everything from the start to the finish of the head tag was in there. And here on line 59, it says close head tag. So you would be pasting in before that close head tag your Google Analytics code. That tracking code would be pasted in right before that. So you would just paste it in before the less than sign, and you're good to go. Now again, it has to be pasted onto every single page of your website that you want to go ahead and track. And in general, you'll want to track every web page. Okay. All right. So now that we've installed the tracking code, whether that's manually or through a program, a dynamic program, we're now going into the standard reporting. The standard reporting allows you to be able to see from the main dashboard some really interesting information about your visitors. More importantly, it's vital information for a small business in, again, as I said, understanding the intent of the search on behalf of your web audience, of your target audience that you're marketing to, and making your web content more relevant to them in the search engine. So again, this is about using Google to be found on the web, and therefore making sure that you're relevant on the web is really important, because people don't go to their URL bars anymore and type in, mindentist.com. They want to find a dentist in Roanoke, Virginia. They're going to google.com, typing into the search engine and asking it for dentist. They're saying, please, Google, help me. I have a felt need right now. I have that pain in my tooth. How do I fix that? And Google's going to respond by giving them back the most relevant information. By looking at your Google Analytics data here, you can find out what the most relevant information is and the holes. If you have a dentistry practice, and I'm not really I don't know very much about dentistry, but say there's you focus on crowns, doing crowns for your community, and that's your specialty, and you don't have any web pages for crowns, you'll see that there's a gaping hole in the keyword searches for crowns, and therefore you should now make some web pages about crowns on your website so that people know that's what you do, okay? So that's sort of the whole reasoning behind this. Here we are at standard reporting, and we have visitors overview. And the visitors overview here shows us the number of visitors that came to the website. Now you can see a couple of different things here. One is that this is an overview, and so therefore we're only going to be going into some of the sort of deeper level reports, but there is a lot of information within Google Analytics. GA provides very, very deep, rich information, but I don't want you to get weighted down in all of the little nitty-gritty. I'm just going to look at sort of the overview of these items in our last couple of minutes here so you can sort of see these things, and then we can sort of answer questions and so forth. But either way, here we're seeing the number of visits to this particular website. This is a small website that I'm tracking, which here we can see that there's over the course of time, you see in the last month we had a total of 16 visitors. If you just hover over any particular items, we had 16 visitors on April 18th, and you can see that was sort of the height of traffic. We've gotten a total of 55 people who visited this website. Now, the 55 people are what Google considers unique visitors, okay? And so that means that's not repeat visitors. That's actual people once in the month. They may have come to the site multiple times, but these are one individual who came back to the site multiple times. This is counting them only as one unique visit, okay? So 55 people came to the site, and all told, we had 134 visits. Now, visits means that the same person viewed multiple web pages, okay, what we call page views, but they visited the site 134 times, okay? So I may have come to the site and then visited 5 pages and then left the site and come back. It's going to track the times I came back to the site with time in between, as opposed to just page views as I was browsing in that one session. So it shows me visits, unique views, page views. Again, page views are the number of times specific pages were looked at across all of the pages that I was tracking, okay? The number of pages per visit, you can see 2.66. So the average person of the 55 people who came to the website, the average person came to 3 web pages, about 2.5 to 3 web pages. The average length of that time on the page was 2 minutes, 42 seconds. The bounce rate was 62%, meaning that for the 55 visitors that came to the website, a good majority of them, 62%, came to the website and immediately left from that page that they came to. Okay, so they came to the front home page, or they came to a specific page, got the information they needed, and left. Okay, the percentage of new visitors, that means the number of visitors that Google couldn't track to say that they've been here before. So it says about 30% of those people were new visitors, and that about 72% of those people were returning visitors. Okay, so that's just sort of the overview of visitors, which is the first sort of page you see under the umbrella of audience when you come to Google Analytics. That is just the tip of the iceberg, though, when it comes to Google Analytics. So let's talk about a couple of things. One is that Google allows you to be able to see not only audience, but it allows you to be able to see traffic sources, meaning that where people are coming from when it comes to various types of web traffic. So we're going to jump down. I'm going to skip altogether advertising. If you have questions about advertising and using Google AdWords and Google AdSense, that's for another day and another dollar, so to speak. But we're not going to talk about Google advertising in general. We're going to talk about traffic sources right now. But if we go down to traffic sources shows you where people might be coming from the web. And that might be an email marketing campaign, or it might be Google+, or it might be some other type of social media, or it might be an e-commerce site that you have set up or dedicated. It may be other types of things. But for the most part, what you're looking for in the traffic sources is trying to figure out where people are coming from so that you can go ahead and be more active in that particular place. Because we know that the more active you are in that space, the more likely people will go ahead and come over to your website in order to view your products or services. So in this particular case, I'm asking Google Analytics to come over here to let me know where people are coming from. So I can see that Google is referring me quite a bit of traffic. So people are finding me through organic search results. You can see that Yahoo is referring me some traffic, which means that someone's clicking on email and coming from Yahoo, and some other smaller websites that are directing a click or two from those places. But for the most part, I'm getting most of my traffic from Google. So I know now to focus my energy on Google search results, okay, as opposed to something else. But if you saw a lot of Yahoo traffic, then you might want to work on how to be found being used through the Yahoo search engine. Okay. The next thing down is the next big umbrella is content, and the content overview gives you the ability to look at your analytics from a perspective of content, which, as I was talking about earlier about the dentist, if you worked on doing crowns for people, then you would want to find here that people were going to the web pages that were associated with the services he provided around crowns. So here you would want to make sure that people were visiting what people were visiting, and go ahead and increase that information in general. So that's content. You can see sort of the content of where people are visiting within your web page and how long they're spending on particular pages and so on and so forth. And next are conversions. Now, I'm not going to get into some of the more complex issues, but specifically under conversions is that, in general, you have to have a goal in mind with your website, which is that when someone comes to your website, you are telling a story. And every story has a beginning, a middle, and an end, right? You have a rising action where there's some type of problem or challenge involved. In your business's case, it's your client's problem or challenge and their felt need or want, and your ability to resolve that, okay? The story itself then comes to the middle part, where the climax happens of a story, and that climax is your unique benefits, the benefits you provide as a small business to your customers. This is where you create your content, because the content itself of your website speaks to the benefits of your business. So that's really the meat of where we talked about content just prior in the section above, all right, where the pages of the page that people are visiting. And then finally comes what we call the resolving action, or the part of the story where we have a denouement. And the denouement is where everybody comes together and there's a resolution to that story. In your case, it's a sale. It's the person picking up the phone and calling you. It's someone filling out the contact form on your website and contacting your business. They're convinced that you're the product or service that they need or want to buy, and they're going to do it. And this is where goal conversions come into play. By creating goals through GA, through Google Analytics, you're capable of going ahead and figuring out what people want and whether or not you're satisfying it, okay? So in this case, this is the area where you go ahead and set up a goal. So I'm going to quickly set up a goal. In this case, I want people to come to my meetup site, and they're going to visit my meetup site, they're going to visit a specific event page, and then they're going to go ahead and RSVP. So I know that they're going to RSVP and come back to the main page of the website, and everybody's happy. So my goal is that when someone comes to this particular page, this event page, that they go ahead and click on the RSVP, and then they come back to the main web page to go view the website more. So here we go. We have, I clicked on, I'm here at the conversion page. I'm going to go back here just so we can go here. We go to goals. I'm going to click on overview, and here I'm at the overview section, and it says, oh, you don't have any goals yet, go ahead and set up a new goal. So at the very bottom here, it says set up goals, this little gray button here, and I'm going to go ahead and click on set up goals. It's going to take me to my administrative section, the admin section of the website, and it's going to go ahead and ask me to go ahead and create a new goal. So it opens up the goals tab automatically. It says goals, set goal 1, all right? And so I'm going to click on goal, and I'm going to give that one a name, which is to visit main web page, website, okay? I want to make that an active goal, and I want it to make it a URL destination, all right? And that goal URL is going to be a particular web page, right? So I'm going to go to this particular site, and I'm going to type it in. So I want people to come to this main web page, and there it is. So I'm going to go ahead and copy that web page. I'm going to paste it in here, and now people are going to go to this meetup site, okay? That's going to be their main goal page, okay? I want it to be an exact match, and it's not case sensitive, so it doesn't really matter. That's fine. All right, so we're going to go ahead and click Save. Now what happens is I'm going to go down and I'm going to pick another goal. All right, I'm going to say this one is to RSVP for the event. I'm going to make it active, And I'm going to list that, of course, it's an event. So therefore, it can give me a set of options within the page for specific types of events. So I'm not a member of this particular meetup under this profile, so it's going to require me to log in and such, but that's hide nor hair. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to copy this link. I right-clicked on the link to the event, and I'm going to go ahead and put that in there eventually. So here, what this is saying is that there's various categories or labels within the system, and whether or not I want to go ahead and add those within the system. For the most part, I'm just going to make this a URL destination for ease and convenience of this morning. And so I'm going to paste in the URL for the exact event that I want people to go to. And that's going to be a goal as well. I'm going to click on that goal down there as well. So now both goals are set up in the system. You can see that people basically will visit the main site. That's going to be one goal. Another type of goal is going to be for people to go ahead and RSVP for the event, which means that they clicked on the event. In this case, they could click on the RSVP link, whatever it might be. But you go ahead and decide on what the various goals are. So one example of a goal might be for you to, and I'm sorry that I couldn't show this to you in a little bit more clean of a fashion this morning, but the idea is that someone will come to your main page. They type in yourbusiness.com. Then they go to an intermediary page, which may be a products or services page. They go to your products and services page, and then they click on the next link from your products and services page. And at the bottom of your products and services page, where you've told the benefits of your product or service, there's a link that says, call us now, or go to our contact form and contact us for a free consultation. So then people click on that free consultation link, and it takes them to the contact page of your website, and now they fill out the contact form and click submit. Clicking submit is the goal for your goal within GA, within Google Analytics. So what you're really trying to do is to get people to go ahead and leave come to your website, move through the site, and then go to some place and end their interaction with your website so that you can see what happens, okay? So the goal there is to see someone click that contact form. So now back under the standard reporting, we can go ahead and see under conversions, go to overview, excuse me, and now I just set up the goals, so it won't be able to track any information because none of the goals aren't happening yet. But you can see that the goals will allow you to be able to be tracked. Now, of course, you can create a goal value, which means you can put a dollar price on every time someone does something. This works mostly in the e-commerce world, where you can set a goal for a specific product being purchased, and so therefore you can track how much money you're making through the conversion of the goals on your website. It's really powerful to see the actual numbers. So that can be done. Excuse me. And so you can see all sorts of fun stuff when it comes to goals. Either way, I recommend that you play around with goals, and I'll show you in a little while. There's a lot of information you can garner from the Google Analytics education pages to teach you about goal conversions and so on and so forth. But either way, you can go ahead and see this. I'm going to take you back up to audience just briefly to go over a couple of minor items that I think would be vital to you in general. One is that all of these reports allow them to be emailed to someone that you want to email them to, or to yourself. And so what I like to do is that as soon as I set up a new profile within Google Analytics, I immediately schedule those email messages to come to me with attachments so that I can review them on a regular basis. Now, I like to track my websites on a weekly basis. You might want to track them on a monthly or quarterly basis, depending upon how often you update or want to look at the site traffic. I would say at minimum monthly, but that's me. So you go out there and you go ahead and decide you want to receive monthly email. On the first day of every month, you want to get an email, and I'm going to send this one to myself, Ray at w3cinc.com, and I want it in PDF because I want to be able to look at it on my mobile phone as well as on my web browser. Wherever I am, I want to be able to read it. So I usually select PDF, and I would recommend the same because the rest are in sort of text files and Excel files. If you're an Excel person, you might want to look at it in a spreadsheet format. I like it in PDF. And so then I can go ahead and set that to send, And now that visitors overview report will come to me on the first day of every month starting today. Okay? So on the 1st of June, it would go ahead and show up in my inbox. Okay?
Ray, can you
So
show us where that is again? There you go.
Sure. Yeah, right here at Visitors Overview, right underneath the title of the form, there's an email, and it says email beta because under the new Google Analytics format, it's technically a beta system feature, but the email now is built into it, and you can just click on email, and it will pop up. Okay, and that's on every overview on every form sheet. So you can, if you click on here we're under traffic sources, you can click on email under traffic sources overview, and you'll be able to get that same window, and then email yourself the traffic sources. Now the really cool part is that you can go ahead under custom reporting and mash all of these particular areas into one report. So if you only want to see time of visitors on your website, you can go ahead and put that on its own report and just have that emailed to you. Say, for instance, you only want to see goal conversions sent to your CFO. Well, you can go ahead and send that to your CFO, and for most of us, we're our own CFO. So, you can go ahead and send that to yourself, but you can note that at the end of the month when you do billing and invoices, or when you look at your product for restocking purposes and whatever it might be, you can time specific reports to come to you on those days so that you know that information when you're making the order purchase decisions, or when you're making the next marketing decision. You can go ahead and time those reports to come to you, at the time of month when you really need it. Okay, so I was talking specifically about social media ROI and mobile stuff, and just to show you here under audience there is a mobile section, and if we go ahead and go again audience mobile overview, we can see all of the various types of information that are related to mobile browsers coming to this particular website. And you can see that we have quite a bit of mobile visitors. So we can go ahead and decide on how we're going to develop the website more for mobile visitors. And then we can, of course, see the devices. So in this case, I can see that we had Sony Ericsson LT15i Xperia Arc. Okay, 4 times that person visited our website. I've never even actually held a Sony Ericsson LT15i Xperia Arc. So that's really interesting that we have this, device that's interacting with our website. And so we probably want to figure out what that website is and how it looks on it, and then make some changes. So if that 4 was a 4,000 or a 400, visits, that is really important to us, and we want to make a decision about that. But we also know that there are some Android-based platforms, the Motorola Zoom. We have some iPads and some iPhones, and again, another set of Android-based devices. So we know that the iOS and Android systems are definitely platforms on which we want to make sure we're looking at. And then finally, social. So under traffic sources, Google has given you this new sub-item, so traffic sources, social, go to overview. And under overview, they're going to give you this little explanation that shows where source pages, conversions, social plugins, and visitor flow basically happens as it relates to social impact. Okay, so see this little diagram here. They give you conversions, sources, pages, and social plugins, and that is where the overlap, the Venn diagram, creates your social impact according to Google. So here we can see for this website, if we created various conversion goal values for our social interactions, we can go ahead and see what happens in here. So you can see that all of these different types of information, types are shown to be able to allow us to track the social conversions and the social media ROI. For everyone, that might be different. For you, it might be that you want to get Facebook likes to turn into website visits. You might want to get people to click like on particular, basically click the Google Plus button to +1 your various web pages on your website, so those can show up in the social plugin. All of this is pretty much done natively by Google Analytics, as long as you have Google Analytics installed on your website, which is really great. So, there's no additional work you have to do. It basically does it for you so that you can go ahead and see that. So we can see that here, Google Plus we've had some shares on Google Plus and Facebook and Twitter, and of course your site will have more clicks than this because this is a very small website. But you can see all of the various traffic that's going on, and it's a very, very powerful tool that's now been added. So you can see the site content and so forth. And I'm gonna end, and then we can open up for questions with the in-page analytics. So if we go down to content, the content section on the left-hand side, and then click on in-page analytics, what in-page analytics does is it actually opens up the website, your website, and shows us live where clicks are happening on the website. So it actually goes ahead and highlights, in color where people are basically clicking within the page. So this is not doing this all that well, but on your browser it'll probably show better. I have too many things going on the screen, but it will show little bubbles over each of the links, and over each of these links it will go ahead and show the number of clicks on each of those particular areas, so that you can actually live watch your customer flow through the story of your website. Okay, so this is really powerful for you to be able to see, well, how are people, flowing through my website? Where are they having bottlenecks? If you see a lot of people clicking on the top of the web page to get to the first navigation page that they go to, and then the next link that everyone's clicking on is the very bottom of your second page, well, why don't you move that link to the top of the page? Or maybe you see that most people are looking for some particular type of information, and you can put that information right there on the main page of the website. Either way, in-page analytics gives you a very, very visual cue as to how your visitors are traversing your website, and it can be very, very powerful. So I recommend checking out the in-page analytics. So in all of this, you have the ability to also go ahead and view this information in different ways. So if we go ahead into any specific sort of drill down report, you can see that we can change the type of report view. So I can go ahead and change from a graph to seeing this in a sort of circular pie chart format. So you can see that I can see this in various, so this is demographics of language of the people who are visiting, and you can see I can see this in dots, and the unique colors, of course, expand when there are more and move around. But pretty much in every view, you can see them both in a graph view or in that sort of bubble view. And then going down, you can also change these from data view to a graph view, so you can see percentages within a pie chart. So you can see I can turn this into a pie chart, and there's these 5 buttons right across here. So it allows you to be able to see that in line graph format, percentage format, comparisons. You can see these types of things, and then of course in a spreadsheet view. Okay, so that's also important. And then last but not least, this is 2 items past what I said I would, but okay. The last item is you can compare 2 particular periods against each other. So if I click on the calendar date time frame, April 2nd to May 2nd, I can go ahead and click on compare to past, and it automatically gives me the prior month. I can select any other time frame. I could select a specific time frame beyond that. But if I wanted to just compare, month to month, I can go ahead and do that. So I can go ahead and select one period of time against another period of time, and have the system go ahead and do that. Okay. So if I want to cancel. So last month, compare to past, apply. So what I've done now is you can see here it says April 1st to April 30th of 2012, March 2nd to March 31st of 2012. And now what it's doing is showing me in blue against orange. Blue is the current, and orange is the old data. And it can now show me how traffic happened in the site. And you can see that traffic pretty much stayed along the same lines of every month. And we have one event every month, so it makes sense that we would have that traffic spike around the time of the month when that particular event happened. But it also shows me now percentages, basically the amount a percentage increase or decrease of the particular item that it's looking at. Okay?
Ray,
So,
can that report be emailed? That
yes.
comparison
So, again,
report?
yes. So now that I've created this view, I can just click on email, and it will literally send me this exact setup of the report. Okay? So I've set up a comparison report. It will send me that comparison going forward for the prior month, looking at the current month, because that's what I set it up as. So that's what I was talking about before. It's sort of like custom reporting, but in this case, it's just basically the settings that you have in view at the moment when you click email. It's how the report will be sent to you going forward.
Great. Ray, we've got several questions here and just a few minutes left, so I'd like to try and move through those if that's all right with you.
Yes, go for it.
All right. How and where do you enter the keywords that you want Google search to relate to your website?
So there are a couple of places that Google looks for, and there's no one right answer, because Google does not publish what they're looking at in order to tell you the relevance of the website. However, we've learned throughout the years, and Google's many, many changes, that there are a couple of places that we pretty much want to make sure your website covers. First is that the title of your page, the title of your website, basically when you're looking at the website and you see at the very top of your web browser, it says the name of your business. Well, it just can't be the name of your business, because some of our businesses are not descriptive to actually what we do. So, I see several, businesses out there where their names are really fun and interesting and brand-oriented, except that they don't actually tell me what that business does. Well, on the very top of your web browser, where it shows that web page, it needs to read what your actual product or service is. So if I'm the dentist and I say Dr. Smith, well, Dr. Smith doesn't tell me that I'm a dentist. So that very top of that web page where your site, what we call a site title, the site title needs to have your keywords in there. Now, the important part here is that every page on your website, so your home page might have the most general, that is you're a general dentist. So it may say general dentistry, it may say crowns and fillings in Roanoke, Virginia, okay? That's going to be very general. Each of the individual websites on every other page on your website needs to have a specific keyword associated with it as well. That's different from your main page, because your main page is not where most of your visitors are going to find you. Most of your visitors are going to type in a web page and find an internal page in your website because you've created content there. That's number one. Number two is that you have what is called metadata. And not to get too complicated, but if you know what metadata is, then you can go ahead and put it in there. If you don't know what metadata is, then go ahead and talk to your web developer or web programmer and make sure that your site has a clear meta description and what are called meta keywords. Those meta keywords are, again, associated with the same thing as a title tag. They should talk about what your website's about on the most specific level, okay? Then is the actual content of your page. Every page has anywhere from, one sentence to 1,000 words. And Google looks, as we've sort of understood, at about 25% of the average website page length. Now, across the entire web, they consider that to be about 1,000 words. That means they look at the first 250 words of your website, and they sort of do that as a standard across all websites. So what we found is that you want to have about 250 to 300 words on every page of your website that you want to be found by Google, and that 250 to 300 words needs to have your keyword in it somewhere. So that's the best intro answer I can give to as it relates to where you want to put keywords for Google to go ahead and find it.
Okay. Do you have to have a Google URL to use Google Analytics?
I don't necessarily understand the question, but I'm gonna answer with no.
Okay. How do you measure your data versus competitors?
So there are several websites out there. Alexa.com, Alexa.com, allows you to be able to type in your competitors' websites, and see what traffic they're getting. And of course, it's not going to give you the same level of data that Google is going to be able to give you as it relates to your own website that you can track data for. But with Google Analytics, Alexa.com, and there are many other tools like Alexa, but Alexa is probably the most popular one where you can type in a competitor's address and find it. And then Google Search itself, typing into a Google Search, and we'll have a webinar that's coming up on just using Google Search to do market research, which part of market research is competitor research. So attend that webinar, and I'll show you all about how to find out about your competitors using Google Search.
Okay. Would a high bounce rate indicate that perhaps you should improve your site to get people to stay and navigate more?
That's a great question. And so a lot of people tell me that high bounce rates equate to more website development that needs to be looked at. That's not necessarily the case. When you are trying to give people pertinent information, what you want to be able to do is to give them that information and let them move on with their life. However, if you're trying to sell products and services, that doesn't necessarily always work to your advantage. I would not worry about bounce rates so much, more than I would worry about goal conversion and or looking at time on site. So time on site, the amount of time people spend, the average time on site, which I showed you very briefly as we walked through them, but under the content section where there were page views, you can see in the deep level there the amount of time someone spent on the website. So and I sort of like to relate this to HR. HR says most frequently that the past behavior of an individual indicates future-based behavior of the individual, which is why we look at people's resumes and talk to references about what they've done to see what they're going to do. Well, the same sort of applies with regard to your website. The likelihood of your users just sort of repeating themselves on your website is pretty clear unless you change something. So if you change the game, then you change the interaction with the user. So what we like to do is we actually like to see an increase of time on site comparative to prior periods. So when I'm working with a client, I like to tell them, let's take snapshots of where you are. That is, the average time on site may be 1 minute to 3 minutes. The site that I showed you, the little mini site that I have set up for my little meetup group, we have about 2.66 page views per minute, and about that period of time, about 2 minutes that people spend on the site. Well, if we can create that to go to 6, then we know that people are much more likely to attend our event. And translated to small business, they're more likely to buy our product or service. So what I want to really see for the questioner is for you to increase the time on site for the users. And as you increase the time on site for users, I bet you that your goal conversions are going to increase if you set up good goal conversions, good goals, and your product and services, product and or service, you're going to get more sales out of it if people can buy on the site. So you're going to see those two increase because of time on site versus bounce rate. So yeah, there's a level of bounce rate where you're probably like, wow, that's a lot of bounces. We may look at page speed, may look at content, those types of things. But really start gearing yourself toward creating great content to keep people on the site. And I bet you that the goals will convert higher and your sales will convert higher, depending upon which one you're going after.
Okay. Ray, we have about 5 more questions, but we have come to the end of the hour. I wanted to allow you to answer those, but I wanted to just finish up for people that do need to jump off, if that's okay.
Sure, absolutely.
Thank you all for participating today. Today's webinar was recorded, and it'll be posted on the Virginia SBDC website. Tomorrow you'll be receiving a follow-up email on this webinar, and there'll be an evaluation link in it. Please help us continue to improve our training by taking the time to complete the evaluation. If you want to fill out the evaluation now, I put it in the chat window, so you can click on it and fill out the evaluation. And if you're interested in expanding your digital presence, please contact your local SBDC to schedule one-on-one counseling sessions with Ray. Our next seminar is going to be on May 17th. It's finding your customers, competitors, and company using Google search. And with that, if folks want to go ahead and take off, go ahead, and I've got probably about 6 questions that we're going to run through real quick for those that have already asked them, and then we'll cut out. So for the next question, does standard reporting have a dashboard tab like the old version reporting so you can see everything at once? I'm hoping that makes sense to you, Ray.
Yes, yes. So there is a dashboard view that is sort of hidden behind the scenes. So yes, there is a dashboard view. What I really recommend though is that you go ahead and custom tailor a dashboard for yourself using the custom reporting tab. So you saw there was a home, standard reporting, custom reporting tab. I would really recommend that you go into custom reporting and start using that tab, because I don't know where the dashboard is going. I think it's going away. And if that's the case, especially since they've hidden it from us, at least in plain sight, I would go to custom reporting and create your own custom report that makes sense to you so that you can go ahead and view your website data the way in which you need to.
Okay. There was one other question on the bounce rate. Could the bounce rate mean that they're bouncing to your other pages?
No.
Okay.
No. So bounce rate in and of itself. So one of the things in Google Analytics that's really cool is if you click on almost any of the reports, at the very bottom of the report page, it will give you a help link, which will take you directly to that section. So if you see the bounce rates, you can click on the little graph that shows up to the left of the bounce rate number. Click on that. It will take you to the report. So you're drilling down deeper into the report, right? You're more specific. You're looking at the bounce rate report. Scroll down to the bottom of the page and click on the help link. That help link will take you to Google Support, and Google Support will explain to you exactly what that particular term means. In the bounce rate specifically, it's that I went to this page and I left on that page. Okay, so it's not that it's not that I left from a different page. It's that I came to this page and I left from that page.
Okay. This question is on the mobile devices, and the question is, how can you tell what your site looks like on those devices? Say you don't have an Android phone, you've got an iPad.
Oh, so there's no simple answer to that. There are a couple of tools on the web that allow you to use what's called an emulator, and the emulator allows you to see what the website looks like on a mobile browser. I would go to howtogomo.com, which is Google's partnership product with another service that allows you to be able to develop for the mobile web, and I think that they have a tool there. Okay. However, hardware-specific to hardware-specific products, I mean, doing that comparison, I would literally go to your local, telecom provider, mobile phone store. So if there's a retailer around, go to your mobile phone retailer and actually, walk in the store and type in your website and see what it looks like. And if it doesn't look good, and if it doesn't take you to where you know your customers need to go, then that tells you what you need to do in terms of things. From GA, the data will tell you a lot. You can look at different segments, what are called metrics, and go ahead and see metric versus metric. So you can see the number of so talking about bounce rate again, you can look at the bounce rate versus the number of mobile users. So you can basically use those as competing metrics to see how many people on mobile devices bounce from your site. Now, if you see a very high number, over 40 to 60% of users come to your site and they're bouncing from your site, and most of them are mobile users, well, guess what? You need to do something to help those mobile users reduce the barriers to viewing your site. So that's how I would do it. I would look at howtogomo.com. I would go visit your local mobile phone store and mobile phone retailer, play around with the various devices, looking at how they view on those particular devices, and then come back to your computer and look at Google Analytics to see what the data says.
Okay. So 2 last questions. Are there specific Google social plugins, or can any be tracked?
Are there specific Google social plugins? So Google Plus and various other Google products, most of them are being deprecated, which means that Google is no longer programming for them, and then they will eventually be sunsetted, meaning that they'll go away. But for the primary product, Google Plus, there are several social plugins available. So if you go to google.com, type into the search window Google Plus share social plugin or share plugin, it will take you to the Google developers page where you can go ahead and create those plugins. It'll give you a little bit of code. Go ahead and throw that code snippet onto your website, and that will allow those plugins to happen. The major social networks, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and now Pinterest is getting some traffic, but that's still to be determined whether Pinterest will stay or go. And you can go ahead and get those plugins for each of those websites as well and put those on your website. That's much more of a manual process, but those are not specific to Google. Google Analytics will look at them generally, the major ones, and track that information. They don't just look at Google only.
Okay. So this one is specific to a specific user. When I tried to create a Google Analytics account, I get the following error message. Google Analytics has not been enabled by the administrator or the domain, and she gave the domain. My website is maintained by Legal Web Pro. I've contacted them. They assure me that Google Analytics has been activated. What should I do to resolve this?
I can't probably help you with this specific situation, but I can give you a sort of a whole strategy approach, which is to go back to the website provider, the ones who are setting up your website, and telling them to give you access through the admin panel to the Google Analytics account. So what it sounds like is that they are, dynamically producing your website. It's not a static website, but it's a dynamically produced website, and they're pushing the code out there for Google Analytics. And if that's the case, then they have a Google Analytics account. That's sort of their master account. And all they need to do is to add your Google account, your Gmail account most likely, to the Google Analytics profile so that you can see that data. So that would be the first line of defense. The second line of defense would be then to ask them to go ahead and give you administrative level access to your own site. If you're capable of making modifications, then the administrative level access to the site would allow you to be able to go ahead and paste that code in directly and do that. The error message that you're getting sounds like there may be something Google support related, in which case Google provides you, the Google support network. So you go into Google Analytics, you go to click on Help, and it will take you in and help you resolve the problem by asking the web-based, question and answer, FAQs and help responses, and then the users that are in there as well, other Google Analytics users who can go ahead and help you answer the questions that you might have as it relates to that. So one is to ask them to just give you access to the profile. Two is to give you administrative access to the highest level of the control panel so you can go install the analytics code yourself. And three is to go ahead and contact Google support and see if they can help you that way.
Well, Ray, thank you very much for your information today. It was a lot, and we appreciate your time, and thank you all for attending.